All right, folks, thank you for joining. This is Pete Downing. Thanks to those. If this is your second webinar of the day with me, today I'm doing what's called a Webinar Wednesdays doubleheader. This morning I had my guest Printer Logic on, and this afternoon we're going to have some fun talking about what's new with Citrix in Q1. This is a new thing I'm going to start. You're going to see this each quarter. I'll try to do a summary of what's going on with Citrix from a Citrix Cloud point of view and give you guys some good insight into the world of Citrix from the purview of myself. And if I can get some consultants on the phone, some of my consulting team as well. Today, unfortunately, a lot of us are busy, so it's me today. So hopefully you guys don't mind that. And we're going to go from there. All right. So again, for those who don't know me, my name is Pete Downing. I am the CMTO of XenTegra. So yes, I have two roles. So if you guys know Igil over at Jet Airs, I'm like him. I have two titles. But hey, But if you follow me on social media, you'll know two things. One, I'm from Boston, and two, I'm a Boston sports fan. So don't hold that against me. Again, you can see my background. I'm not going to sit here and go too deep into my background because we have a lot to cover today. But if you guys are interested in anything around PVS or Ardence, let me know. NetScaler, Zen Client. I spent almost 10 years at Citrix. So, and if anybody likes to fish, definitely let me know as well. I'm always game to go out and catch some fish. All right. Today is packed. We are going to have a little fun. And I'm going to do some polls, get you guys interacting with me so I can kind of have an understanding of where you guys stand. And then I'm going to go through what's new. And when I do that, I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit. And depending on where the questions are, I have the Q&A dialogue up. And yes, I am a Patriots fan, so don't hold it against me. I'm going to keep paying attention to the Q&A. So if you guys ask questions, that's going to kind of force me to go in different directions. All right. So the more questions you asked, the more interesting this could get. All right. So, and at the end, I will open lines up for Q&A. If you want to ask a live question, feel free. All right. So some housekeeping. You guys are on what's called GoToWebinar. Right now, yes, you are all muted. If again, I'll do a kind of a radio kind of style talk show at the end. If you want to be unmuted and ask a question live, you can. But there is what's called the Q&A dialogue. Feel free to plug a question in and ask me. I am paying attention to it. It's kind of the blessing and a curse of having three monitors. And I can pay attention to that and try to intertwine that into the content. All right. So again, I welcome questions. And if I can't answer it, I will find you the answer. I promise you that. All right. So some fun polls. And again, this tells me if you guys are sleeping or if you're paying attention. And again, I can't see who's answering these, so don't worry. The first poll is a fun one. Are you using Citrix Cloud today? And I tried to make it a varying degree of answers just to give you an idea. And, hopefully we'll give you guys a few seconds to answer. I'd like to get at least 70% or higher. And this also tells me that I got my audience engaged. So we'll give a couple more seconds, going once, going twice, going three times. And all right, so here is the results. Good mix here. So we got a lot of people considering it. So I'll kind of talk through that today. And I'll give you some little snippets of thought that you can take away and hopefully consider. Also, if you go to XenTegra.com/events, we do a hands-on workshop around the cloud, free. And you basically get hands-on labs and you get to interact with me in a little more depth. And I answer a lot of cool questions. All right. So again, thank you for taking part in that poll. All right. The next poll, we are going to ask about Citrix. I use Citrix today for the traditional virtual apps, server-based computing, virtual desktops, VDI, both. Or I don't use Citrix, or I'm considering Citrix. And yes, I threw those two on there because you never know. You'd be surprised. I do get people on there that don't use Citrix or, use the friendly competitor. But again, I'll give you guys a couple more seconds. Going once, going twice, going 3 times, and all right, good. Everybody's a Citrix customer, hopefully. So good chunk of you do both. And then a good chunk of you are mainly focused on SBC, which is the classic Citrix use case. Now, one thing I am going to try to cover today is Citrix is starting to get outside the realm of the normal use case. So you're going to be able to do a lot more with Citrix than just virtual apps and virtual desktops. So I'll try to cover that today as well, and we'll go through that. All right, the next thing is, and this is more of a curiosity question, I still have XenApp 6.5 in my environment, kind of like Windows 7, right? So curious to see who still has XenApp 6.5. And again, I won't judge, I promise. I can't see who's answering them, so don't worry. And I'll give a couple more seconds to answer the questions. And going once, going twice, going 3 times. And we got a good spread here. So there's still a good chunk of you with 6.5. So, again, definitely reach out. XenTegra can help you guys, and we can give you a good path forward. Now, the cool thing is the Citrix Cloud can help you as well. And I'll maybe, if I have time, I'll show you that. If not, reach out and I can show you how that works as well. All right, and then my final poll, and again, this helps me kind of plug in different things throughout the day today, is are you using Office 365, M365, whatever you want to call it now? And again, this is more of a curiosity question because a lot of people who are using Office 365 don't realize some of the benefits they have available to them. So we can help you understand those benefits, but we can also talk about how Citrix is working with Microsoft as well. And I will cover some of that today as well. All right, we're going to give a couple more seconds. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. And yes, and we're going to share this. Now, what's interesting about this is it's a good spread. And, anybody with Exchange on-prem, if you are looking to pivot and get all 100% up in the cloud, let us know. We can help. Anybody with hosted Exchange, you still got to figure out a backup strategy. And anybody in the deployment process, if you're using Fast Track, good for you. If you don't know what the term Fast Track means, let me know. We can educate you. All right. And if it's not on the radar, I guess I'd be curious to see why. So if you want to reach out and let me know. Let me know. All right. And then anybody using Google Chrome, awesome. We sell Google Chrome Enterprise and we sell Google Chrome devices as well. So, all right. So those are the polls. Thank you for partaking. Again, those help me understand my audience and hopefully I can sound interesting and fun for you guys. So again, we are XenTegra. I'll explain who we are at the end if you don't know who we are, but we were just selected as Partner of the Year for Citrix. We are a Platinum Citrix partner. We're also a Microsoft Gold partner, and I'll cover that later on today, but I want to get into the juicy stuff. All right, so let's talk about some general updates. And a lot of this might be a summary for some, but I like to cover it because people seem to forget. So the biggest thing, if you've been with Citrix a long time, and, like me, I've been around Citrix since 2000. They like to change the name of the products. And guess what they did last year? And if you didn't get the memo, yes, they changed the name of the products again. And, they tried to make this known and they put it out there. But if you don't know, as of Q3, they did change the name of the products and they also changed the way they are versioning the product. So instead of doing, 7.18, 7.17, they're doing the year and the month that they're going to release the product. All right, so that's the big change that you're seeing with Citrix. And again, if you don't know all the the names, let me know. I can send you a list. But this slide kind of sums it up nicely. XenApp is now known as Virtual Apps, and XenDesktop is now known as Virtual Desktops. And again, you can kind of see where Citrix is going here. Yeah, Zen's a great brand. Heck, we have it in our name, but Citrix is the brand and their products are X. All right. And so again, if you want the list of the product names, let me know and I can send them to you. The other thing to understand is, because I talk to a lot of customers, again, this is a quick summary for those who are getting used to this, is the release strategy. Now, if you're on cloud, awesome. And I always joke, if you're not looking at cloud or you're not on cloud, you're already behind. Because that's obviously where Citrix is going to put a lot of emphasis. And that's obviously where, you're going to see a lot of feature, getting released. Okay. Now, if you're running the latest and greatest, so 18.11, you're on what's called current release. Now, the great thing about this is, yeah, you get all the cool features, but let's say you call support and you have a problem in the product, and let's say they're going to fix it in the next version, they're probably going to push you to upgrade to the next version. All right, so it's a blessing and a curse to go to the current release, right? Now, if you don't mind upgrading, awesome. And if you're in the cloud, upgrading gets a lot easier, and you're just dealing with your VDAs. And my philosophy of VDAs is upgrade when you have to, right? Now, the long-term service release, the last one was 7.15, all right? And 7.15 is a great release. It's very stable. It's arguably probably one of my favorite releases just because it finally has a lot of parity with what you guys are used to in 6.5. And they try to do these releases now every 2 to 3 years. They used to be every 18 months to 2 years. They kind of bumped it up a little bit because I think based on feedback from customers, et cetera, who use this release, they said, hey, every 18 months is too fast. All right. So you're going to see another release this year, probably late year, another LTSR. So watch for that. I like the LTSRs because these are stable, and they're great releases to run on because at least you know two things. One, you're getting a stable release. And two, if you call support, they're going to fix the issue within that release. Now, if it's a feature, they're not going to obviously add a new feature. All right. So if you want a feature, then you kind of have to go to a current release. If you want stability, you're going to stay on LTSR. Now, my other tip for those who have taken my cloud workshops before, I always say try to get on the LTSR at a minimum before you move over to cloud. So if you're on, let's say 7.13, try to get to 7.15 on the VDA side and then cut over to cloud is my tip of the day for you. All right, so let's talk about WVD. All right, and I could spend a whole other hour on this, and maybe I will. If you guys think that's a cool topic, maybe I'll make that my next topic of that's XenTegra focused. But my philosophy is simple here. It's not a competitor. And the reason why is because it's not going to be able to do everything Citrix can do. If anything, Citrix can help it. So yeah, you could connect to a desktop in the cloud using RDP, but you're still not going to be able to like manage all your apps. You're still not going to be able to do app layering, profile management, the whole 9 yards. So Citrix still has a place in the WVD world. All right. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today, but at the end of the day, this is something to put in the back of your mind and know that this is going to be a great ISV opportunity for Citrix in the future, similar to the days of Citrix versus Terminal Services. It's the same relationship. So again, don't get fooled by all the fluff you're seeing out there. It isn't a competitor. All right. So just to comment on a comment that came in, it's too bad the cloud service isn't at the higher than current release, saying that not all the functionalities in the current release are in the cloud services. So Dave, good point. But the reality is the cloud service is actually always to the latest release. All right. Maybe that's what you're trying to say, but the cloud service is always going to be, when they launch a release, it's probably going to tail the release by a month. And if you go in and see, like today, cloud is on the latest release. And that's a cool thing because you're not worried about the Citrix infrastructure. You're focused on your VDAs. You're focused on your apps and where and how you host those. So it's pretty cool. Again, if you guys want to get some hands-on experience with the cloud, definitely jump on my workshop. And yeah, the parity is not there. You're right. And I talk about that. So David brings up a good point. There isn't feature parity with some of the on-prem features. And that's some of the stuff I'm going to cover today. So buckle up and get ready. All right. All right. So one of the big things you're going to see is better HDX adaptive throughput. Now, obviously, Citrix is working extremely hard to continue to, always make HDX awesome. Right. And, that's the biggest argument of why Citrix, right? The protocol has been around for, 27 years. Actually, they're turning 30 this year. So again, HDX is the reason why a lot of people use Citrix. So you're going to see a lot of great improvements around HDX, around video, HDX around, Skype, Microsoft Teams, et cetera. So keep an eye on HDX. And again, my philosophy on the receiver, well, it's not receiver anymore, it's Workspace app, is upgrade when you need to upgrade. Because obviously, Receiver is a client-based feature, and if you are going to use Workspace app, you definitely want to stay lockstep on what's coming out and then upgrade as you see fit, right? And again, Citrix and Aston Martin Red Bull have a great relationship. If you follow, Christian Riley, the CTO, on Twitter or whatever medium you want to follow him on, he does a lot of stuff with Red Bull Racing. It's pretty cool, and they're a big user of the HDX and virtual GPUs. And the other thing where this plugs in is HDX on Chromebooks. So a few of you said, hey, I use Chrome. Now, do you have to use Chromebooks with Chrome exclusively? No, you can use Chromebooks with Office 365, Citrix. It's a great solution. We actually do a workshop with Google. So keep an eye out for those. We're going to do a few more of those this year. And you're going to see better improvements around Skype for Business on the Chromebook with HDX. Now, Teams. I don't know how many people are using Teams today. We're just starting to use it, and I like it. I gotta be honest with you. Yeah, it's Skype. Or not Skype, but Slack. But at the end of the day, it works pretty well, and eventually you'll see, the calling features get lumped in, etc. So Citrix is starting to go down the path of supporting Microsoft Teams. So you're gonna see through the web-based version support for Microsoft Teams. I don't know when the client-based version is going to come, but again, they do support Microsoft Teams in the web-based version. And again, Skype for Business is today, but again, keep an eye on the future. If you're not looking at Teams and you're a big Skype shop, definitely start playing with Teams. Actually, it's pretty cool. I actually like it. You can do a lot with, sharing amongst each other, put up docs, etc. So, again, keep an eye on Teams. And again, Skype still works. I still use it every day with customers, etc. So at the end of the day, you're going to see them pivot this to Microsoft Teams. Again, they're going to continue to leverage the various hardware that's out there. So obviously Citrix and NVIDIA have a great relationship. So if you are using virtual workloads, you're going to continue to see improvement in the NVENC around NVIDIA and also the H.265 codec. And you're also seeing this bleed into the Linux client as well. So if you're using, IGEL as an example, IGEL is always updating their iOS and making sure they have the latest and greatest codec. So, again, if you're a thin client consumer, one of the pain points you're going to see with some of the other vendors out there is they don't upgrade as fast. So if you have that problem, check out IGEL. A little shout out to my friends over there. All right. And again, the goal here is to work better with NVIDIA. So you're seeing a lot of stuff happening with NVIDIA and Citrix, but also on XenServer. So I always ask the question, how many of you use XenServer? That should be a question I probably pull in the beginning, but think about this, right? You guys are getting XenServer for free. If you're a platinum customer and you're an enterprise customer, you're getting XenServer for free. If you're a cloud customer and you're doing Premium Plus, or you got folded into the Premium Plus, you're getting XenServer for free. So why not use it? All right. Why not minimize your capital expense and use a hypervisor that is still being developed, is still a priority? I actually just talked to David Henschel about this back at Summit. And I'm telling you right now, they are doing a lot on the XenServer front. So why not use it? All right. And the question I always pose to you guys is, who do you think Citrix tests on first? All right. I'll leave you with that. But again, the cool thing is they're doing a lot with NVIDIA. You'll be able to do vMotion between hosts with GPUs. So pretty cool. And they're the only vendor doing this right now around Citrix workloads. Again, so as you start getting into, using Citrix more and more and the whole workspace methodology, there's a lot of things that have to be improved, and Citrix recognizes this, right? And so if you look at things like graphic and bandwidth usage, they're always working on this to make sure that they're not killing your WAN, they're not killing your LAN, and that's where Citrix excels, right? Or DPI matching. I don't know about you guys, but Windows 10 can be very finicky when you plug it in from monitor A to monitor B. Citrix recognizes it. They're trying to fix these issues. Battery status. They don't want to kill your battery. improved, lossless image quality. Again, they're doing a lot of stuff to improve the protocol. And then any ServiceNow customers out there, they are doing a lot of cool stuff with ServiceNow and building connectors. So, as we all know, automation is king, right? And anything, I don't know about you, but I try to automate everything I can in my job. So everything from, if I got to submit a ticket to, my job, like, if I get a registration, I have a whole automation frameworks, et cetera. But even in my life, I have automation around, my Airbnb. So I have an Airbnb, and when someone checks in, I have an email go out. When they walk into my house, it turns on the air conditioning, stuff like that. So automation is king, and that's really the focus here around ServiceNow. So if you are using ServiceNow, Citrix has this thing called the ITSM Connector in the cloud. Yes, it's a cloud-only feature, and it builds workloads between your Citrix environment and ServiceNow. It's pretty cool. So definitely check it out. Me personally, I came from the Res side of the house, and I was doing a lot of Res 1 automation. And Res and Ivanti, has they have this thing called Identity Director, and I'm hoping Ivanti realizes that, hey, maybe we should work with Citrix and do the same thing that ServiceNow is doing, because it's a pretty cool product as well. All right, so this is where I'm going to segue into my first demo, because I like this feature. So this is a new feature as of the last release of the Workspace app. Now, just to get the air cleared here, Workspace app is the new replacement for Receiver. Now, the funny question and funny story, last Summit, so back in January 2017, or actually 2018, sorry, I asked the question, is Workspace going to replace Receiver? And you guys could probably guess the answer I got. And they all said no. Well, guess what? So we're going to jump in really quick, and I'll show you this feature because I like this feature. This is one of my favorite features. So if you go to receiver.citrix.com, you're going to see a nice little bulletin up here that says, guess what? Workspace app has replaced the Receiver. So I guess the answer was yes after all. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, that's where you go to get the latest Workspace app. The other cool thing about the Workspace app is you can turn on auto update. And yes, Dennis, good question. I'm going to cover that in a second, so bear with me. So you can download this. Now, the cool thing is, yes, there are other downloads for other applications. So you can get Chrome, you can get HTML5, iOS, Android, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there is even a Linux receiver as well. And that's where I give kudos to Citrix. They actually said, you know what, we got to focus on all the clients. All right, so anybody who's been with Citrix a long time knows that some of the clients suffered over the years. So again, that's kudos to Citrix. All right, so let's jump in really quick. I'm gonna show you a quick demo of the virtual space, and I make sure I go to the right one. Let's see, I got 3 demos going here. All right, so I'm gonna log in, and this is actually my lab production environment, and I'm gonna launch so this is what Workspace app looks like, and I'm gonna dive into this a little bit more in a bit, so bear with me. What I want to show you guys is this virtual window, the virtual monitor feature. I like this. So imagine you have a 32-inch monitor, which I'm trying to get right now. My boss would pay for it. If I full screen this thing, you'll see I have it split into 4 sessions. So hopefully you guys can still see this. Yep. And what's cool about this is it treats one monitor like 4 different monitors. So I can drag and drop this guy here, and I can full screen it here. I can drag my PowerShell here and full screen that there, and I can drag my Explorer over here. So I could treat one monitor as 4 separate monitors in a virtual desktop session. So again, I like this feature because what it does is it eliminates the need for having maybe 6 monitors or having, maybe 4 monitors. If you can get a monitor big enough, why not? I mean, you get a 52-inch TV, you could have 4 nice size monitors on a 52-inch TV. So this is one of my favorite features right now from a Citrix app scenario. So let's take a look just really quick how you configure this. And you can tell when I get excited because I always, I get pretty passionate about things. But you can go into your settings here, and you guys are hopefully familiar with this, but if I go into monitor layout, it's a new tab that got included in 1811, maybe before, I forget. And you can separate, you can build out a monitor setup for each of your users. And yes, you could set this up as a policy as well. So you can go and basically separate monitors into 4, 2, 3, whatever you see fit. Most people are probably going to do 4 because that just makes symmetrical sense. But again, this is where you go and set it up, and you can set the DPIs for each of them. So it's a pretty cool feature, and one of those ones that I think for you guys is something to consider for Workspace app. And I'll cover another thing that's going to make going to Workspace app a little easier, especially if you're on-prem. So again, that's my first demo, and I'm going to jump in and show you a couple more in a little bit, so bear with me. But that's one of my favorite features right now. And let's jump in. So the virtual display layout. Yeah, I agree, Paul. So that was the feedback. So Paul says, hey, they're just windows. Why waste the screen with the taskbar? And I agree. And I think Citrix is looking into that. But obviously, yeah, they're basically using probably geometry to separate the windows up. And they're basically, doing, again, I'm not an architect, but they're probably using pixels and overlays and things like that to simulate a monitor. So obviously the taskbar, but that'd be cool if they could get rid of the taskbar. But I think that's on the radar. Again, I'm not a product manager there anymore, but I'm just guessing. So good point, Steve, or Paul. All right, so Dennis, I'm going to get to your question around mobile apps, so bear with me. And Pablo, is the RTM build into Workspace or still a separate install? So the real-time monitoring, I think it's still a separate install, but I'll double check that and get back to you, Pablo. So I'm not 100% sure on that. All right, so let's talk about Citrix Ready Workspace Hub. For those who are, looking at thin devices, as I like to call them, Pi seems to be the hot thing right now. If you want my honest opinion, I'm a big fan of Pi in certain use cases. I think it has its place, but if you need more robust, so if you're in finance, you're in healthcare, especially doctors, or if you're in, anything where there's a lot of monitors, it's going to start falling down. So that's where companies like Igil and some of the other vendors are coming into play. And I think you're going to see this coming soon grow. And here's the background on that. And I might get kicked under the table at some point, but Citrix has exclusivity with NComputing, ViewSonic, and Stratodesk. So that's why you only saw it for the last year with those 3 vendors, is because they did an exclusivity agreement with those vendors. You're going to see this open up over the next year to all the other vendors out there. So you're going to start seeing it on Igil. You're going to start seeing it on Atrust, ClearCube, some of the other vendors that are out there. So keep an eye out for that. And again, what's cool about this feature, if you haven't played with it or if you haven't got it to work, let me know and I can try to help you. But Citrix casting. So that's the ability to take a session that's like on your phone and cast it up automatically into your screen, right? And so it's a cool feature. So imagine, hey, you're doing something on your phone. As you walk up to your desk, poof, it shows up on your screen. And essentially, it's a cool feature. And I think in concept, yeah, it's great, but I'd imagine there's some security things you got to consider as you start rolling this out. But again, you're going to see this feature get adopted by the other vendors now in the space, and you're going to see this expand out into some of the other vendors. So I'm excited because it opens the door for some of the other vendors that were kind of left out to start playing with this feature and giving you guys bigger value on their devices. And then you can switch back to the phone. I always forget this slide builds. I hate build slides. And then let's talk about security. So, as we start looking at Citrix Cloud, there's a lot of things that come up. And one of those big things is security. The other thing is parity. And again, I haven't forgot about your question. I'm gonna cover some of the parity issues. So the big thing that Citrix is trying to do is make securing the cloud a lot easier. So a lot of on-off buttons and just kind of really dumb it down. And one of the things you're going to start seeing is a lot of if you've played with the cloud, you'll know what I mean. The studio that's cloud built is going to start getting more cloud native. And if you and when you go to Synergy, if you're going to Synergy this year, I have a feeling you're going to see that be a theme at Synergy, is the cloud studio that's in the cloud today. You're going to start seeing a lot of native, what I like to call cloud native UI. So you're going to see that kind of evolve over the next 6 months. Again, you can do watermarking. So if someone took a screenshot, or if for security reasons you need to have a watermark or a stamp, you can, which is pretty cool. Now and you can control the transparency, things like that. And again, this is more to protect people from screenshotting and sharing it, and then you can know that, hey, that's our screenshot, we got to track down who shared that, kind of thing. So it's kind of it's a good security feature to have. The other thing that's cool, and if you are a government-based customer, a federal customer, I'm going to be doing a couple sessions on this in the next few months. I'm working with a federal team now at Citrix. We're going to do an Azure, government and a Citrix Cloud focused webinar, and we're also going to do a Citrix Cloud and Azure focused workshop. So again, Citrix now has GovCloud, and Azure also has Azure Government. So again, if you are security focused, obviously it's not just the Fed. If you're in healthcare for HIPAA, things like that, this is something to think about as you start rolling out Citrix Cloud. And again, they are always focused on getting industry certificates, common criteria, FIPS, 508 compliancy, right? And I got to be honest with you, this is hard. As a product manager, I've gone through some of these, and it is tough. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money, and to do it right, you gotta go through all the hoops. So you're gonna see some SOC compliance and some FedRAMP compliance coming out, and they have it vaguely as coming soon. I don't know the timestamps on these, and if I did, I would speculate, but I honestly don't know. So good question came in around uptime. So yeah, around Citrix Cloud, they do have an SLA of 3 nines, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, so bear with me on that. So another cool feature is what I like, what's called secure browser service. So if you're not playing with this feature, it's a really cool feature, and I'll bring it up in a second. So secure browser service, think of this as the ability to run a browser on someone else's infrastructure, right? And what's the cool thing about that is you can treat it 2 ways. You could treat it as it's a way to run a secured session, or you can run it as a throwaway session. All right. So one of the things that they've brought in is regions now. So before it was, I think, just one region. Now they have Asia, West Europe, East US, Australia, and these regions are going to continue to grow. And these regions obviously align to Azure, and that's where the browser runs, by the way. All right. And then another feature they added in is client drive mapping. So let's say hypothetically you wanted to do, I don't know, an EMR, right? Like Epic, or maybe you're doing an ERP and the user needs to attach a doc. You want to run this in a secured embedded browser. You want the drive to get mapped. They now support that. It is tech preview, but I have a feeling you're going to see that get GA'd in the next 6 months. The other thing is you're going to see a lot more logging. So, one of the knocks that Citrix Cloud got was, the logging was kind of light, and it was hard to, troubleshoot issues, troubleshoot cloud connector issues, things like that. So you're seeing better logging with the cloud, better notification, et cetera. And again, the snippet here is the cloud built studio. All right. And I can show you that in a minute. And then they're also getting more granular with delegated administration. So Citrix actually does listen, and that's what I got to say. I say they, again, as an ex product manager and on these teams, I talk to these guys all the time, and they listen. And a lot of the feedback that you see here in this deck came from you guys. And so, Citrix, I got to say, that's another kudos I'll give them, is they are listening. They are trying to, evolve the product as fast as they can. And this is another example. A lot of people said, hey, your delegated administration wasn't granular enough. Can you make it better? So they did. And then finally, and I like to, I'm going to, end cap on this slide, and I'll start showing a little bit of demo. But 2FA, that's probably the biggest knock around Citrix Cloud today, is that it doesn't support 2-factor authentication. And so, this arguably is the, probably the biggest reason why a lot of people haven't gone fully to cloud, or use what I like to call the hybrid approach, where they run on-prem and NetScaler on the premise, and they use the back end for running all the other stuff, the SQL, the DDC, all that stuff, right? And so, again, this is coming soon. This is going to be a one-time password scenario thing, and you're going to see this evolve. And some of the vendors they've name dropped are companies like Okta, RSA, Google one-time password, and there was one other one that they name drop. But my speculation here is they're going to have an API that vendors could plug into, but they'll also have something of their own, if you will. So keep an eye on this. This is why I think it's going to get interesting this year. So, and yes, Duo was one of them, Paul. So again, I don't know the details yet. I'm still waiting eagerly as well. So, and then if you are using HCI or hyperconverged infrastructure, they've set up a new alliance program where the vendors can get now certified. So you see vendors like obviously Nutanix, Flexible IT, StoreMagic, Cisco. So again, if you are starting to look into hyperconverged infrastructure, two things. One, Nutanix obviously is one of the best of breed, but there are other players on the block that are just as good. So make sure you do your due diligence. If you have any questions, you can always reach out and I'll give you my opinion. And the other change you're going to see, and they've done a ton of improvement on this front, because they obviously want you to use the cloud, and they want you to use Workspace app, is they are doing a lot of site aggregation within the cloud workspace. So what does that mean? You can now manage on-premise sites from Citrix Cloud. Now, you've always been able to do this, but it's a lot better now. So if you've done this since day one, hopefully you can attest and agree with me. But you're seeing much better support for on-prem scenarios. And the driver here is twofold. One, it simplifies your management through the cloud. And two, it's going to hopefully start getting you in the mindset of, I want to adopt Citrix Cloud, right? So they're not going to try to push you off a cliff and say, hey, you got to go Citrix Cloud. They're going to let you ease into it and slowly get plugged into Citrix Cloud. So again, they've made drastic improvements on this feature. And I actually just did a training last week on this, and it actually is a lot better. So anybody running 2019, I'm going to say maybe not. But again, they do have day one support for 2019. I have tested it. It does work. And again, the goal with Citrix is always to have day one. Obviously, it gets challenging. For example, Windows 10, 1809, when they pull it back, they put it back, and they pull it back again. Obviously, that makes it challenging. So you can't blame Citrix for everything, but they do strive to get day one support. So again, anybody looking into 2019, you're not going to be lost when you start getting it installed. So, and I actually have, like I said, I have tested it. Another cool feature. And again, this feature has been here for a while, but a lot of people always glaze over it and they forget that it's here. If you are using Azure, they have what's called Azure Quick Deploy in the cloud. All right, and it's in this. Think of this as like the slimmed down version of Studio and the machine creation wizard. All right, so hopefully you guys know what I mean when I say that. What they've done is they said, all right, we're going to take the pieces you need to get to Azure quickly. And it's a really cool feature. And I'm building out a workshop as we speak with a demo to show this. So keep an eye out for that, because I'm going to do a full-on Citrix Cloud workshop where I show you how Citrix Cloud plugs into Azure. All right. And so again, if you're not using this feature, you can use the Studio, the full configuration, and manage Azure. It just, you got to know what you're doing and know what pieces you got to plug in. It does work, but what they've done is they've tried to simplify it for you. So great feature. Definitely check it out if you're an Azure customer. And again, if you have any questions, let me know and I can show you some things. Google Cloud Platform. I don't know if anybody's using that, but you've seen a lot of progress on the Google Cloud Platform. When it first came out in 2018, it was only PowerShell scripts, and then they went to Power Management. And then they added the ADC, and they're going to add machine creation services at some point this quarter. So you're going to see better support for Google Cloud Platform, and you're going to be able to manage the hosts a lot easier. So if you are using Google Cloud Platform, awesome. But what this does, if you really think about it, is it gives you guys choice. So, if you need to run workloads on Google because it's a little cheaper, you can run workloads on Google and still use Azure, right? So you can get fairly flexible in how you manage your workloads so you can get more cost effective. It's pretty cool concept. Auto scaling. So auto scaling is in the cloud today. It's called what's called Smart Scale, but Smart Scale is going away. So Smart Scale was kind of like a side-by-side feature of the cloud. And in order to get some of the benefit of Smart Scale, you would have to do separate wizards and configurations. And Citrix said, you know what, we're just going to build it all into one UI, make it easy. And what's cool about this is now you can have better control of your workload. So if you are using, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, or even a co-location where power consumption does matter, you can specify the virtual machines you want on and off, scale up and scale down on demand, which is pretty cool. Now, the feature is there today. Like I said, it's just in what's called Smart Scale, but they're going to fold it into the delivery group wizard, and it's going to be a little easier to configure moving forward. So another cool feature to watch out for. And then Director. So, again, Director, for those who don't use it, is a great feature to troubleshoot. So your help desk may use this to, hey, if I call up and say my Citrix isn't working or I can't connect to desktop A, you're going to be able to, troubleshoot a lot quicker. And they've done a lot to improve Director in the cloud. So, you're going to continue to see this get improved because obviously they're doing a lot with analytics. App layering. So anybody who's using app layering, awesome. But if you're not using app layering, definitely reach out. I do run a one-day workshop on app layering. And for anybody who has taken it, as I always joke around, app layering is not as easy as people think it is, right? And there's a lot of thought that has to go into leveraging app layering. And I try to make it as easy as I can for you to understand. And then when you walk away, you say, yep, I can do this, or nope, I need to hire Pete and he'll come in and do it, right? But again, some new things that are happening in app layering, they're obviously support 1803. I know 1809 is on the radar. One tip I will give you with Windows 10 on app layering is you need to have .NET 3.5 installed, and it has to be x64. That was the big mistake I was making for almost 6 months. And they do have what's called the Office 365 user layer. What is that? That's where the OST file can go. So if you have non-persistent desktops and your OST file and your Outlook experience is slow, this will fix that. So again, any questions on that, definitely reach out. Again, I could spend a whole other half hour on just that. And then they have user layers as well, similar to FS Logix, et cetera. So if you are an FS Logix customer, awesome. And if you haven't looked into user layers, it's something to consider for profile management. Definitely eases the pain. And then finally, the management services. So you're going to see the WEM management console continue to get expanded, right? And so you're going to start seeing better data into your WEM agents and get better data into the analytics. And this is going to plug into the analytics. So keep an eye on that. And again, I'll try to cover at the end the packaging of this, but I'm a tech guy, so I don't want to start name dropping numbers. But in Linux virtual apps and desktops. Now, what's cool about this is, it's a cheaper way to get maybe an app rolled out, right? So if you're not looking at Linux, it's something to consider, especially if you're just doing like a browser or if you're doing a one app and you can have a low footprint OS in the data center. Why not, right? And so Linux is going to continue to get more and more support. So things like NVIDIA, adaptive transport, federated authentication, MCS, hardware encoding, things like that. And you're seeing this more and more and more with like IGIL, but also in the back end as well. So again, Linux is making a big push in the enterprise. It's going to be interesting to see how much Linux gets out there in the next 2 to 3 years. All right, 2 more, and then I want to jump into a demo. XenServer, again, I already harped on this, but again, they are improving it. And you guys can read, they have in Q4, they launched the 7.1 LTSR CU2, which brought on support for 2019. And you keep an eye out, they're going to have another release, 8.0 this quarter. I don't know if they're going to abide by the new versioning control, but we'll see. All right, and again, XenServer is now called Citrix Hypervisor. And again, if you're not using it, it's something to keep in the back of your mind because, again, you already own it. All right, so again, what's coming around the LTSR? I kind of alluded to this. The next LTSR is due out sometime later this year. Again, there's no time frame on it, so I can't get too definitive, but again, keep an eye out for that. And I personally like the LTSRs because they're stable, right? So if you like stability, then the LTSR is your best friend. Even if you are using Citrix Cloud, you can use the VDA on the prem when you're doing your VDAs. Obviously, the Citrix Cloud will be the latest and greatest, and it will work with, it can work downward with LTS, with the various LTSRs. So if you're on 7.15, the current cloud is on 18.11, it should work fine. All right. All right, so let's talk about Workspace. And instead of going through slides, I want to show you guys a few things because we got about 10 minutes. So the first thing I want to show you guys is, for those who haven't played with Workspace, the look and feel. So I have another demo here that's a little more populated just to give you an idea of what is the purpose of the Workspace, right? The purpose of the Workspace is simple, right? I want to get my users to have the same look and feel across every user experience that I can. So whether I'm using the Workspace app, which is the local agent on the machine in Windows, or the HTML5 browser, I want that to be the same experience, whether I'm on a Linux client, I'm on an iOS device, an Android device, a Chromebook, it's gonna be the same experience and you're gonna get the same functionality and features. So if you look at, the way this is laid out, and for those who haven't played with this, one of the things that you'll notice is the look and feel. Now, I have a slide later on, but I'm done with slides. So I'm just going to say it. The cool thing that Citrix is finally going to do, and I know some of the customers on the phone, this is probably one of my biggest gripes, is if you are on-prem and you want to kind of take this hybrid approach, you kind of walk this fine line of usability, right? And so your users might see the storefront on-prem, but then they go to this and they're going to go, whoa, what's this, right? And so the goal here is simple. Citrix is going to finally bring the Workspace experience on-prem. I don't know when they're going to do it. I don't know what release they're going to do it. I'm told that they're going to bring this and you're going to be able to have the Workspace look and feel on-prem. When I find out, I will let you guys know when it's going to come out. I can't speculate, or I would, but they did share that information with me. So good news on that front. But again, you can see I like this look and feel. I don't know if you guys agree, but I like it. It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier. And you can see you can do not only regular apps, but you can do embedded browser apps. You can do SaaS-based applications, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. And then you can also do your desktops, right? And so you can have your VDI sessions, your server-based shared desktops, things like that. And then finally, you can augment all your files oriented stuff and what they're calling content collaboration. Now, what's cool about content collaboration is they're not coming in saying, hey, Mr. Customer, you got to run ShareFile or else. No, they're saying, hey, Mr. Customer, we're going to give you ShareFile. You can use it or not, or you can use it to augment some of your other products you may use. That could be Box, that could be local network shares, that could be Google Drive, right? And so you can use it as an aggregator to have it show up in the Workspace app, and then you can get your files, right? So if you click here, and again, I have to authenticate. I forgot to authenticate. I apologize, but you can click and you can see all your files no matter where you are. So that's pretty cool. I like this feature because they're giving you the freedom of choice, and they're saying, hey, Mr. Customer, leverage ShareFile for monitoring and DLP and things like that, but you can still use OneDrive. You can still use Box. You can still use on-prem files, right? So that's pretty cool. Now, the other cool thing is, so I'm just looking at my question thing. So if you hear me pause, it's because I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. So someone made a comment around, let's see, it says anything on the IDM integration. Let's see, that one, let's sync on that one offline because I can't really share any of that on a public setting like this. So WEM install, will WEM install work on the 30-day eval licenses? Lawrence, good question. I know WEM now is part of Premium Plus. So if you do Premium Plus, you get WEM. And if you're doing kind of an on-prem scenario, then WEM should work. So if you're Enterprise and or Platinum, WEM should work. And again, I'll double check that for you. So definitely email me and nudge me and say, hey, did you get an answer on that? Dennis, yes. So to answer Dennis's question, yes, the goal here is simple. I don't have a storefront, what I'll call the ugly storefront handy right now. But if you are running an on-prem storefront, it's the old look and feel, that orange, the purple, or if you skin it, you skin it. But again, it's their goal is to bring this look and feel on-prem. So good question. And then, and again, I'm trying to make sure I hit all the points. Are there any plans to add featured app groups in the storefront? So yes, George, my understanding is yes. I don't know when, but yes. All right, that was one of the things I brought up too. All right, so the view I'm using right now is Citrix Cloud. So this is hosted in Citrix Cloud. So what I'm going to do is I want to show you guys the back end really quick, just so you can kind of get a lay of the land. So anybody who hasn't used Citrix Cloud, go to cloud.com. Yes, they own that domain. I actually helped acquire that, by the way. This is the back end infrastructure. Now, the cool thing about Citrix Cloud is two things. One, it helps you centralize your management into a central UI, and two, it helps you see all your services from one view. So if you have multiple companies that you're managing, what's really cool is if I go to domains, I can manage all my domains from right here, and it's a lot easier than your traditional setup. All right, and this is if I say Cloud Connector and you've played with Cloud, you know what I mean. But there's a thing called the Cloud Connector that gets installed on premise, and that talks to the Citrix Cloud. Now, what's really cool about Citrix Cloud, I'm going to point out a couple things because we got about 5 minutes, is I'm going to give you my favorite features. How about that? All right, so the first thing is, from a management perspective, you can see this is what is called Premium Plus. So this is the highest level that's available in the cloud, right? Now, you're going to notice there's still some networking features that have to be turned on. So, app delivery management, that's AKA Citrix ADC, and that's MOS, basically. You got intelligent traffic management. That's I'm actually looking at that right now. ITSM adapter. That's back to that ServiceNow, and that's going to be part of like another add-on pack. And then you got the app firewall. So if you guys aren't using NetScaler, you don't know what I'm talking about. And if you want to get more on NetScaler, again, check out our events. I do a cool hands-on workshop on core NetScaler, but also app firewall. All right, so that's one of my first feature. My other favorite feature is secure browser. All right, so if I go to manage here, secure browser gives you two things, and I like secure browser because think of this, right? Do you want your users surfing unnecessary web traffic on your network? And what does that open the door to? That opens the door to they click on something they shouldn't, and it affects their computer and your network, or unnecessary surfing. So maybe you want to allow them to go to Amazon.com at during lunch or whenever they want, but you just don't want it on your network. So think of this as a way to host a browsing session in the cloud, and they won't even know that it's happening because it's a shim within their browser, and you can do anything from what I call the embedded browser apps to throwaway apps. So for example, here I'm just gonna do publish a secure browser. I won't go through the whole wizard, but you can do two models. You can do external, so you can say, hey, no authentication required. So maybe you want to give them access to, I don't know, Facebook, and it's going to be up in the Citrix Cloud. And when they close it, the cache goes away, poof, gone, and it's not touching your network. Or you want them to authenticate. Maybe you're going to do an embedded browser like Salesforce or an ERP or things like that, right? And so the secure browser is a really cool feature to start looking at. And again, you can get this standalone. So if you're on-prem, you can do what's called Workspace Standard and get this feature and get your feet wet with Citrix Cloud. So again, I'll show you kind of the end product here. So I did GoToMeeting just as an example here. And I also have Salesforce. And that's actually set up through the single sign-on and SAML interface. And I'll show you that, guys, that in a second. And so if I go to policies here, you can see I can turn on some cool policies. I can say turn on and off the clipboard, turn on and off printing, make this a kiosk or not. If I make this a kiosk, it gets rid of the address bar. So I can say, hey, if they click on Salesforce, that's all they're going to be able to do. Or if they click on Facebook, that's all they're going to be able to do, right? And so when they close it, again, the cache goes away, it's throwaway. Now, if I turn this off, it keeps the cache and it will sync it to their files. So you can have two different scenarios with this. And then they finally have the cloud, the client drive mapping as well, which is another cool feature. And again, it says tech preview, but when they usually put it up in the public's eye, when they do that, it usually means it's within 6 months of getting released. All right, so little sidebar for you guys. All right, so that's secure browser. And if you want to see a deeper demo of that, let me know and I can show it to you offline. The other feature that's intriguing me, and there's a lot here, you can tell I'm excited because I like what they're doing, all right, is this thing called analytics. All right, and so if I launch this demo, again, I don't have a lot of cool data in mind yet, so I'll launch the demo environment. Now the analytics is cool because think about it. You guys have a lot of cool stuff in your environments today. When a user logs on, how they logged on, what app they launched, how long they were on that app, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a lot of cool data that you can make decisions based off of. So Citrix is doing one thing that's cool. They're saying, hey, what if we can take this data, and for those who are GDPR, you can skin the names off here and just use SSIDs. You can watch the behavior of your user. So for example, let's say, Georgina here, she logs in every day at 9 o'clock. Well, all of a sudden one day at 3 a.m., she logs in, she starts downloading a ton of files, and we're talking like gigs. I want to take action. Or, Catherine here, she logs in and puts her password in wrong 3 times. We're going to automatically lock her account and not allow her to log in. So you can take action based on risky behavior. And you could also assess, is it risky behavior? So Citrix is starting to get into this kind of what I call user analytics, user behavior analysis, right? The other thing, and I can't show it because again, these are still things, but you can get into operations. So you can start looking into transactions, how many transactions they did with files, how many apps did they launch? So is Pete really using Visio, or is Bob really using AutoCAD? So you can make decisions based on what's being utilized, what websites are being out there. So you can see that Citrix is starting to do a lot with data. The other thing is performance. So they're going to start giving you guys a lot of cool performance metrics and allow you to make decisions based on performance and take action based on performance. So MOS is great, but they're trying to take it to the next level to say, if bottleneck occurs, take action. If Pete's session all of a sudden tanks out, notify an admin so they call Pete instead of Pete calling the help desk, right? So there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening in the analytics space. And again, as you can see, I'm pretty excited about this feature. So, all right. So with that, again, at the top of the hour, you can see there's a lot here, and I covered a lot of the core pieces, but really the 2 things that I'd like you guys to take away. The first thing is, one, if you haven't played with Citrix Cloud, I personally invite you to take my Citrix Cloud workshop. And the reason why is you get hands-on experience. I answer all the questions, and instead of an hour, you get me for 8 hours, and you're going to walk out there and say, yes, I can use Citrix Cloud, or yes, I want to get this stuff running. And I show demos throughout the day. All right. The other takeaway here is if you need help getting standard up and running, I recommend it. So if you're a little hesitant to go full on cloud, I would say start with standard. It's kind of my mantra. All right. And as I kind of talk here, if there's any questions at all, feel free to put them up. I'll do some final Q&A. And again, if you have to jump, I don't worry, it's being recorded. You can watch this if I go a little over, but any Q&A, let us know. But one of the things I do want to throw out there is XenTegra, as I said, is a platinum Citrix partner. We can help you implement your Citrix environments. We can help you transact if you're looking to upgrade, so we can resell Citrix. But also, if you have a renewal coming up, let us know. Why? I can get you to Citrix, depending on your renewal, I can get you to Citrix free, all the way up to pay for your pass, to a $200 discount. So if you already renewed, no big deal. We can get you a $200 discount to get to Citrix Synergy. It's in Atlanta this year, and we're gonna have a pretty cool first night dinner. So again, Citrix Synergy. All right, so I'm gonna do one more scan of the Q&A, and any question I couldn't get to, I'll try to put up like a blog where I answer the questions. But all right, so I'm gonna take the last question that's in the list from hopefully I say your name right, Gokan. We are using 6.5 with seamless published apps. All right, so you're on a feature that's been deprecated, by the way. And if we go to cloud, can we keep the same setup? So that's a good question. Let me poke around. I might have a good answer for that. All right. So if you want, reach out to me through email. We can brainstorm on this one. The reason why I say that is because I don't think they fully pulled seamless apps out of the policies yet. And I say that because like I said, I just took a class last week, and I was just I want to get my certification because I've been teaching this stuff so long that I said, maybe I should get certified. And in the policy, they still had it. So I want to see if it actually works now. So I don't want to say no, but I don't want to say yes either. So hopefully you can understand my answer there. All right, so I'll do one more. David asked a good question, and then I'll cap it off here. And again, if I didn't get to your question, I'll make sure I answer it. I'll do a blog. All right. Do you know if they will have Linux-based cloud connectors? I love that question, David. So, all right. So anybody on the call still, if you agree with David, a Linux-based cloud connector, please email your rep and say, hey, you guys should have a Linux-based cloud connector. Why? Because right now it's only supported on Windows, which means that's another Windows OS you got to manage, which means that's another Windows OS you got to patch. Now, the cool thing about the cloud connector is, yes, it is evergreen, right? So Citrix manages it. However, you're still on the hook to manage the patching, right? So it kind of defeats the purpose in my book. But again, as you'll learn with me, I'm pretty honest. But I agree with you, David. I wish they would have a Linux one. My speculation is yes, but I can't say for sure. So, and I'll do some digging and see what I can find out. But again, if you guys agree with that feature, definitely reach out to your reps. Say, hey, we want a Linux cloud connector. I will say this, it is hard because they basically think of the cloud connector as the mini me of the DDC, right? That's my joke, right? And so again, it is a tough mountain to climb. So I kind of respect where Citrix came from. And like I said, an ex-product manager, I get it. But at the end of the day, I also get where you're coming from as well. All right. So again, if there are any questions at all, here's my email. You are going to get an email from me, hopefully with the video. Share it with your colleagues. And again, I'm going to try to do something like this quarterly where I just do focused on new features. And there's a lot here, as you can see. So I got to figure out a plan B potentially where I maybe break this into segments, but this is my first one doing this. So hopefully you guys like this. All right, so that's XenTegra and Citrix. Again, we are a platinum reseller and a platinum consulting partner. So if you guys, again, need any help with your system environments or you're a customer, if you're a customer, first off, thank you. And if you want to become a customer, I would love your business. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully you found this entertaining. And again, like I said, a lot of information, but again, I'm going to try to do these quarterly. So watch out for the next one. Thanks for joining, and have a good rest of your day, guys.